Hello, welcome back to another episode of What the Heck Did I Dig Out of Some Random Person's House at 8 in the morning on a Friday? I'd like to show you my latest find. To be fair, it's one of several things I managed to pick up at an estate sale hosted by Adam's Estate Sales here in the Coachella Valley. That's Adam. You ready for this? This is a Pioneer H-2000 8-track player and radio receiver. This thing is great for one simple reason. You see, as we call a Kenmore machine that keeps food cold a refrigerator, so too must we call this Pioneer machine something that explains what it does. As such, I present you with the greatest marketing idea that I have ever read. This beautiful machine was called, wait for it, a cassiever. That's cassette receiver. Cassiever. I'm forced to wonder what that meeting was like, Who thought of that? Who approved it? Nobody heard the word cassiever and was just like, no, guys, come on. We're Pioneer. We're pioneers of electronics, not contractions. And what am I supposed to do with that? You don't follow something like that with boring history facts. And to add to the unintentional obfuscation, the Cass in cassiever refers to the 8-track cartridge, not a compact cassette. Surely it should have been carceiver, or cartiver, or cartographer. Maybe not that one. Now, of course, I'm poking fun because that word made me laugh, but I don't believe Pioneer pioneered the word. I haven't been able to find the first instance of its use or who did come up with it. It's like that mysterious S thing we all drew as kids. If you know who coined the term, please let me know in the comments. Now, all kidding aside, I was really happy to find this unit in such good condition. Everything works, and I didn't have to do anything to it short of a little washing and some polishing. Come on, I'll show you. As I said, this is the Pioneer H-2000 8-track player. This unit is meant to act as your receiver and amplifier. It sports an AM/FM radio, an 8-track player, and a built-in phono preamp so you could hook it up to a turntable. And it's capable of driving its own set of speakers. This is from 1975. If you look at most hi-fi units from the late 60s and early 70s, they did three things: radio, records, and 8-tracks. Compact cassette existed, but only had a small market share, so it wasn't worth the added cost to add a cassette deck to products when they would sell just as well without them. But that was only true for a couple of years. So the Pioneer H-2000 is a bit of a time capsule, not unlike this Boston 8-track cartridge. So let's have a closer look, because like all hi-fi components, it has some odd quirks. On the front, it says Pioneer 8-track AM/FM stereo, but the model number is conspicuously absent. It exists, but it's only printed on the masonite back panel. The power switch is a toggle that sits in the center of the large black square on the front, which also contains the slot for the 8-track cartridge, the program selector, the display, and the headphone jack. To the right are 6 knobs: the radio tuner, the balance, the volume, the input selector, the bass, and the treble. Did you notice something missing? If it plays tapes, where's the play button, or rewind, or fast forward, stop, or any of that stuff? Well, that's the thing about 8-tracks. They don't actually need them. They're much simpler, which was by design. And by design constraint. Instead of a play button, the machine will automatically play when a cartridge is inserted. To stop it, you would simply pull the cartridge out, but this only works when the switch is set to 8-track. Something about that seems counterintuitive, like it's going to break something. But that's what you did. Though I kind of prefer to power it off to remove or insert the tape, it just seems less harsh somehow. But I base that on nothing. And since trying to rewind an 8-track would create a black hole, and fast-forwarding them can be sketchy at times, there really is no need for transport buttons, and I certainly won't complain about a simpler mechanism with fewer parts to break. The program selector is in the corner above the tape slot. Pressing the button easily switches between the 4 program tracks, which are indicated by these red-lighted numbers. To the right is the radio tuner display in bright green. It can play stereo broadcasts when you can find them, and you have a light to indicate if you found one, which only comes on in FM stereo mode. That's pretty much all you have on the front. There's also nothing on the sides and top except for an exquisite faux wood finish, but the back has more to talk about. You have 4 screw terminals for the antennas, the FM, the AM, and the ground. Then you have 2 sets of RCA jacks, one for the speaker outputs and one for the phono input. Okay, 2 things. The RCA jack dates all the way back to the 1930s when it was designed by, you guessed it, RCA. That's the Radio Corporation of America. And also, that phono input is not an aux input. It's amplified. A lot. Normal line level signals get all fuzzy and distorted if you try to hook them up through there. Although it does beg one important question. If you play metal through the phono input on an aux cord and it gets more distorted, does it also become more metal? The unit also has a secondary plug on the back to power the turntable that they assume you're going to be using with it. There's also a sticker that says licensed by Lear Jet. If you don't remember, the 8-track was developed by Bill Lear of Lear Jet fame, like the planes. Now everything this machine does, it seems to do well. When I play the tapes, they play back nicely without much noticeable wow or flutter. In fact, this one's cleaner than most of the cassette players that I hear. The radio works fine, there's no crackle on the volume control, and it seems to drive the speakers with no trouble. But keep in mind, it's a 15-watt system, not a 200-300-watt monster, so make of that what you will. However, that does allow you to pipe it through a bigger amp if you want. You just have to be careful with the volume settings. I did run it with a turntable and it worked fine. This is a turntable I picked up at the same estate sale. The only thing I had to do was clean it a bit. Nothing else needed to be done. It didn't even need contact cleaner. The cleaning process was simple. I just removed the knobs, soaked them in soapy water for a bit, and then hit them with an old toothbrush. I also wiped down the faceplate with Windex just to get the fingerprints off while the knobs were off. Once everything was dry, I popped everything back on, and that was it. The only hiccup was this recalcitrant black crap on the tape door. It's thick, whatever it is. Now, one thing I wasn't super stoked about was how the box was constructed. They stapled the sides together and they're loose on one side. I left that alone for now, but I'll probably go in and restaple it in the next day or two since I don't really want to mess around with glue. But that means taking it out of the wood box. So let's go ahead and do that now so you guys can see the insides. The whole inside is pretty Spartan. On the left, you can see the belt drive for the capstan. If only all belts were as easy to change as this one. Fortunately, this one's fine for the time being. The right side is the circuitry for the radio. They've hidden the ferrite antenna inside the box so that nobody confuses it for a handle on the back. And of course, the transformer, a Decepticon in this case. All in all, I think I made out pretty well with this machine. I'd like to demo the operation and sound for you, but I can't. Copyright, Plus, all the 8-track cartridges I have are rotting and completely unplayable. I'd like to do a video on rejuvenating them someday, but today is not that day. Listen, I tattoo people for a living. I am not here as an expert. There are plenty of people out there who know way more about this stuff than I ever will. This is grown-up show and tell, basically, okay? Not a hi-fi buying guide. Heck, half the reason I love this stuff is I love the look of it. I love mid-century design. I always have. I'm sure you can tell from my living room. It's kind of an obsession. And don't ask me why I have such a soft spot for 70s Danish modern stuff in particular. The point being, I just want to show you stuff that I think is cool for one reason or another. So thank you for sitting through this with me, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Stay metal.